Hey, what's going on, everybody? It is Matthew back, Watty's channel. Thank you for joining me for the last video of my favorite AWA Remco tournament. So, as you guys already know, based on the previous video, of all of the different tournament videos I've actually made, this is actually the first time that I did not combine both the semifinals and finals into one video. So, I'm pretty sure there's probably quite a few of you who are irked that you had to sit back another couple of days until this video is released and you're able to find out who the winner is. I kind of have a feeling of who I want to win, but not necessarily would I classify said figure as the best. Now, if he wins my tournament, all answers or all questions have been answered, but I gotta tell you, so first and foremost, I think when it came to other tournaments, even if I wasn't 100% positive of where I wanted to go with certain figures, I at least had somewhat of an idea of who I thought would win. Especially when you got to the last five figures. And even my very first LJN tournament, I said it before, I was going to pick Big John Studd, and the second I was about to say his name, up pops the Bruiser Brody figure, and Bruiser Brody is crowned champion of my first annual LJN tournament. So even at the very last second, I may not know who I'm going to choose. With these Remcos, I felt like it was absolutely necessary to split the semifinals and finals into two different videos, because once I got to the finals, I had no friggin' clue where I was going. In fact, I said I was going to come back later on that evening and film the finals, and I didn't do that. That was 3 days ago when I filmed that video. I still have no idea where I'm going with this tournament. This is just three absolutely amazing figures. Just to backtrack where I was at before. Alright, so the last three members of the AWA Remco tournament is going to feature the Russian Borzukov, the John Nord the Barbarian, and Kamala. Now, we will start with Kamala simply because he's one of the most interesting characters in WWF history, one of the most unique characters, and you know, I think I've said it before. When I started watching wrestling, late 80s, early 90s, what have you, obviously, 1990, I was 5 years old, so I kind of more reminiscent with the 90s. Was I watching wrestling in the 80s as someone who was 3, 4 years old? Sure. But it's not like I actually remember a whole lot of that about that. And so a lot of times when I think of characters, appearing in WWF, I feel like that's the first time that they've ever, been entered into professional wrestling. And think about Kamala, who returned to WWF around 1992, 1993 time frame. Of course, I'm going to think that's the first time we're ever seeing this Kamala character. This man's been wrestling, or was wrestling professionally, I think, since 1979. Some of the smaller territories, AWA, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Like I said, everybody comes through AWA, especially the 70s, 80s. It's like almost impossible not to find a professional wrestler in the AWA before branching off to other promotions, Jim Crockett Promotions or the World Wrestling Federation, etc., UWF, things like that. The figure just speaks to me so much, and just the overall look of the figure is just so incredible that I've harped on this figure so much, and I really want to set aside probably 20 figures or more and kind of choose based on those figures which would actually be my legitimate favorite figure of any line. And I was thinking about it, and to be honest, Hasbro's my favorite line, and Hasbro has some of the greatest figures you'll ever see. But when I was thinking about some of my favorite figures, I don't really think I could put Hasbro anywhere in there, which is odd. But there are Remco figures I would love to add. and Kamala was definitely one of those characters. Another figure I thought would make a strong push in a tournament or a play setting type of video would be the Russian Borzukov. And the only downside, if you call it that, the only issue, and for lack of a better word, is the fact that his head is kind of shiny. You take away the shine from the figure, and this is a perfect replica to the original, and definitely one of the greatest pieces of this entire collection. And when I say entire collection, I'm not just talking Remco figures, I am talking about everything behind me, or in front of me, depending on point of view. Borzukov, the one thing that he doesn't have that a Kamala has is history. I think as far as actual displayable figures, they both have them in spades. Borzukov might even be a little bit better. Problem is, I just don't have that history with this character, and what do I gravitate towards? First and foremost, I gravitate towards fighting pose. They're Remco figures. They all have the same general pose, same general body types for the most part. They are all playable figures. So once you take away the play pose aspect, you gotta look into other features, such as, you growing up with the wrestler, your how you remember their character, how much enjoyment you got from said wrestler. You gotta look at the actual figures' accessories. You gotta look at their paint scheme. Any one of these guys could win the tournament. And I've been sitting on this video for about 3 days now because I just have not been able to come up with a reasonable excuse to crown any one of these champion. I think from a personal feat, knowing that this was my first custom Remco figure, that holds value to me. The fact that this figure comes with, and it's a little bit more bulky, again, as I mentioned before, because I have 2 layers of, vests in here. So when Chad sent me the figure, he sent me a spare vest, and I just didn't want to risk losing it or whatnot, so I put both vests on the figure, so it makes it a little bit more clumpier than it really is. But overall, incredible look, and best of all, it actually looks like the real figure. You can't even tell it was a custom. Chain accessories with the 2 figures eliminate each other. The anything from the singlet to the vest and shoe covering, I don't know. Again, they pretty much match up right there. Head mold, only because it looks more original. Of course, I think Barbarian has a leg up there. But the overall look, just the overall paint scheme and display of the face and everything, I just think that you've got to put bonus points there, right? It only makes sense. But I have just been so infatuated with this in particular figure for so long, and now I can't get him to keep the spear in his hand, so I am going to swap this out to the right side. Just for now. So, Kamala, I actually know a lot more than these other characters. He was a figurehead in wrestling in WWF around 84 to 86, and came back obviously in the late 80s, and once again in the early 90s for a couple years. Produced one of the first coffin masks with The Undertaker. Went from a bad guy to good guy after that Wiggleman guy and old douche with the bee hat on. What was that guy's name? I knew it at one point, and now I'm talking about it. I can't remember it. I hate when that happens. I don't know. He just had a very fierce and enforcing look to him. He's one of those guys that you just love as a bad guy. As a good guy, kind of, even more dialed down than he has to be in the WWF. face paint and everything with his infamous star and moon belly. I mean, there's just nothing wrong with this figure. And like I said, the only thing you could really knock on is the cuts around the legs. But giving him the bare foot to make him a real, the type of wrestler that he really was, he never wore boots or anything into the ring. So this whole figure just makes so much sense. I'm trying to film my finals, and I don't know. I have no clue. I think it would be a little bit easier if I could at least eliminate one figure and just work on the last two, but how do I choose? I know I wanted this video to be a little bit longer because, well, first off, I kind of felt like it was going to be a long video because I didn't have a clear-cut answer. So, if I do want to stay away from a 30-minute video, hover around 20 minutes, I'm going to have to make a decision. I mean, we're hovering at over 11 minutes already. Alright, I'm going to pull the trigger. The first removal from this matchup is going to be Kamala. This is one of the most heartbreaking eliminations, and we're talking about me having to eliminate Kamala from LJN tournaments in the past. So it's such a fantastic figure, but maybe the fact that they're all customs, but because I classified the other two figures as part of the original Matt Mania line, in my eyes they're original. I don't think the fact that it's a custom had anything to do with it. As you guys know, a custom keeps winning my LJN tournament. A couple customs, won my Hasbro tournament. Well, I take it back. My Hasbro customs won my tag team tournament. From the Hasbro tournament, obviously, original figure won that one. But there was a custom in the last three alongside, so... Kamala, second runner-up, not a bad showing in this tournament. I mean, out of, what was it? If I had to guess, I'd say somewhere in the neighborhood of 80 or 90 figures in this tournament. Probably more, I don't know. To come in at number 3, incredible run. Love this figure, awesome job. But he is the second runner-up, which leaves you with the two original Matt Mania figures in Borzukov and the Barbarian. I would love to see what this figure looks like without the clothing on. See if it's like the same exact type of figure. Yeah, body-wise, looks the same as like your Barbarian type. Here's one thing I just thought about holding these two figures up. The brightness of the Borzukov. Obviously, if you're displaying the Barbarian, it's a little bit more of a dark figure. Not really going to bleed in with the background, but Borzukov does really stand out as a figure. And, oh my god, I might be leaning towards a figure now. So, I didn't even really think about display purposes. Or maybe I have, I just haven't thought about it out loud. But, these are both two killer figures. I can't go back and forth forever, so I'm just going to want to end the video, quickly. And we're all out of talking about history. All we've got to go off is the figures, and... Nord the Barbarian and Borzukov, the last two figures in this tournament. I am going to award my champion to the Russian Borzukov. And I would also like to thank Steelers12, Russ. He did an absolutely amazing job with this figure. And to be able to not only acquire this figure, but to add him to this tournament, and for him to actually win this tournament, was such an incredible run for the figure. And I couldn't be more grateful to Russ as a customizer to create such an amazing piece. You know, I let Russ know that it was very important to me to acquire some of these, you know, Matt Mania figures that were basically impossible to acquire, you know, outside of customization. And what he created for me, and, you know, he still put them on auction, of course. You know, I can't come in and like, hey, I want to offer you $50 for a figure, when someone else can bid on it and, you know, sell it for $125, etc. So, but the fact that he gave me the opportunity to win the figures, I mean, you got to be appreciative of that, and this was just an amazing piece. So, Borzukov does join a whole slew of other champions. So far, we've got the Bruiser Brody figure, who's a 2-time champion in the My Favorite LJN tournament. Yokozuna from Series 8 in Hasbro. The Custom Megamaniacs, Custom Megamaniac Hasbros for the Tag Team Tournament. And now we add the Russian Borzukov to the Remcos. So, in I think the last video, I said something about having like 30 figures for my Galoob collection, which is inaccurate because I think the original line has like 31 figures or so. I could be wrong about that, but I think it's 31 figures. So when you throw in the customs, I'd probably have closer to 40 figures, and still not enough. I think if I get to 64 figures of Hasbro, I'll be able to make a tournament because it's a simple breakdown. 64 into 32 into 16 into 8 into 4 into 2 into your one winner. God, this was a tough decision. I mean, by no stretch of the imagination am I disappointed with this selection. The Borzukov figure is just absolutely perfect. Perfect in every way, shape, and form. And like I said, I couldn't be more pleased with this. So, guys, thank you for sticking with me for, what was it, 20 videos or somewhere close to that? I don't know what we had. Probably not 20 videos. Probably closer to 15. Still, I thought this was a really fun setup. I'm actually glad I didn't split them up. So original plan was after each round, kind of put it like another video or two in between. But I'm glad I did the tournament straight through because I really don't like splitting stuff like this up. You know, I like to put them back to back. Well, that finishes off this tournament. I do want to stay down here. I am going to make one more video because last week I mentioned I got a few more figures in. And the next video I want to do is the conclusion to the Hasbro reviews. So, 2 months ago, whenever it was, I completed the series 1 through 11 Hasbro review, but I said it wasn't complete because I also wanted to look at the prototypes and I wanted to look at the mailways. Well, I finally got the last couple figures in, and we're all set to move forward to look at those mailways and prototype figures. And not a lot of history, unfortunately, but maybe I'll be able to throw a few things in here or there. I don't know. We'll see. What's next? Oh, so this will be posted on Saturday, which will be the 10th, I believe. No, Saturday, the 7th? I'm way off. Saturday the 7th, and on Monday, the 9th, I'm going to post that Hasbro video, which leaves Wednesday, the 11th. I plan on doing another walkthrough and doing another room tour. I know I'm not one of those guys who do like one room tour video a year. I feel like every time I make changes around the room, I just have to make a room tour. But it's always a lot of fun, though. I like being able to have you guys be able to see the complete collection. And I gotta find somewhere to put those darn posters. Right now, I just have them leaning up against the cases, but that's not gonna be there forever. But you'll see everything when I make that video. So over the next three videos, that's the plan. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. Please let me know if you think I made the right choice or if you would have chosen differently. I always love to hear from you guys, your opinions and whatnot. So, all right, I look forward to talking to you in the comments. Goodbye, everybody.